Go.
Guys, how you doing? Welcome everybody to the Forever Classic Podcast. I'm Alex McCumbers, and of course we are always in pursuit of enlightenment through video games, films, and other geek culture. And it's been a little bit because I had to do an emergency trip kinda back to the East Coast, which was weird. But I'm back, and we're here, and we're doing it. So I've got Zach and Joe with me today. Zach, how you doing, bud?
Much better. I just recovered from a foot injury. That's been not fun.
Yeah, how did you even accomplish this to begin with?
This is the
It's a
first
really
I'm hearing
common-
of it, so good job.
Plantar fasciitis, it's just a common inflammation injury of feet. So, like, if you were to walk on your, like, toes without your heel touching the ground back to where your heel starts, there's a tendon. Mine was just really inflamed. And
Were you
specifically
like walking
back...
funny and too much or something?
I don't know. It just happens. I don't know what I did special. But right in front of my heel felt like it had half of a little bouncy ball from, like, a quarter spinny machine
Oh
up
yeah,
on it. So I had, like, a big tight knot that was really sore.
that sucks. I'm
Yeah,
assuming
it
you're
hurt.
getting that worked out.
Yeah, they gave me some anti-inflammation medicine, and it's been pretty great since then.
Good to
Good,
hear it.
Joseph. How are you doing, bud?
Just super ridiculously busy because, it's all like good news. It's just piling up. So, starting homeschool, trying to buy a house, and then at the same time, I end up with a buttload of freelance projects at the same time. So, it couldn't have been spread out a little bit more. It all has to happen at the same time. But within a little over a month, hopefully we'll be moving into a house.
Congrats. That's awesome, man.
Yeah, it's exciting. I'll be able to convert one of the rooms into like a streaming and studio and workspace, so like an office, with the intention for making setting it up for streaming and shooting video and things like that.
Awesome.
So that might take a while to get all figured out. The room that we're looking at having be my office doesn't have any outlets in it. So I have to do some electrical stuff and down the run, like painting walls and making things look really nice for that space. But we are pretty excited. There's a lot of work to do, but that'll keep us busy, and we've got, I think, the energy to do that. Based off of things and my calculations, we can easily add a decent amount of value to this house within 5 years just by fixing up some small things and painting walls and stuff like that. So other than that, I've just been playing some games and watching friends' Twitch streams and stuff. It's been good.
Awesome. So yeah, as I kind of teased in the beginning of the show, I had to do an emergency trip back to West Virginia because my wife's truck had some issues and it was going to be super expensive to fix. But her brother was like, if it was down here, I could probably have it fixed in a weekend. And I'm like, well, guess who's unemployed? So I did. I drove it clear from Texas to West Virginia. It was like a 20-hour drive. Got it over there, hung out for about a week. Got to see a bunch of friends and family, which is really cool. So I got to see everybody's favorite funny guy, Mr. Marshall. That was always good. He's been on the show. He's my stepbrother.
Yeah.
Love that kid. So it was always fun to just like chill with him for a little bit. Got to hang out with my
When was the
sister
last
and
time
her
you
new
visited
husband.
home?
Oh God, like 2 or 3 years ago.
Okay, so this was like a long time coming visit.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been a long time since me and Kim visited the area once whenever we were in Alaska during like a holiday season or something. But
Okay.
any time after that, this is the first time I'd been home. I think Kim had been home one other time. But for me and my family, this is the first time many of them had seen me in at least a couple years, if not longer.
Right. I know you also got to connect with our mutual buddy, Andrew.
Yes, yeah, Andrew over at Marooners Rock, he's doing well. Good to see that him and his girlfriend are avoiding the virus, and they were super tickled to have me over at their place, and we just kind of chilled, we played some Soul Calibur, and I showed Andrew the proper way how to play Monster Hunter, which is really fun, because he's like, I'm not very good at it, and I'm like,
How was he
bro,
playing Monster Hunter that you had to show him the correct way?
I don't know. The thing is like I loaded it up, and because we were waiting for something to download, And he's like, yeah, I haven't touched it in a long time. And he hadn't even like got past the first couple hunts. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? And so I proceeded to just roll face on an Anjanath with like base level equipment, which is always a good time.
Yeah, I've actually stepped back into some Monster Hunter because a buddy of mine bought it for me a couple months ago on PC.
Yeah.
And after tinkering with it a bunch to get it looking and running well, I didn't touch it again. But in the last week or so, I've put in about 8 or more hours into it, and I think it's going to be hard to go back to console because the loading times are basically non-existent on my brand new PC, and I can play it in 4K.
Gotta love 4K Monster Hunter.
You're
still muted, by the way, there, Zach.
Oh, I'm muted in the app. Whoops.
Yeah. But yeah, 4K Monster Hunter. So we've been playing some video games. Before we get into that, though, there's some just like general geeky news that I want to touch on, and I would be remiss if I didn't want to share some words of honor and sadness for the passing of Chadwick Boseman.
Oh yeah,
famous for playing the Black Panther amongst many other roles. But I mean, we lost a hero that day, and it's really unfortunate. And they're giving away a lot of Black Panther comics for free over at Comixology.
And he's not kidding when he says a lot. It is, when I looked at it, it was 270, and then I found some more. So I came across this in a Reddit post saying on Comixology, every issue of Black Panther is available for free, and this includes basically everything featuring Wakanda and Black Panther, including the more recent Shuri series, which is a focus on her and her role as being a sister to Black Panther, and the times that she's had to take up the mantle of Black Panther. There's a mini-series about Killmonger that's also available, and then something called Doom's War, which is apparently Doom trying to get a hold of a bunch of vibranium in Wakanda, but it's like this story arc. But it's like easily $400 worth of free comics available on Comixology. So if you're watching and are interested, definitely run over there and grab that, because if you've ever been interested in reading Black Panther, especially with, in honor of Chadwick Boseman's recent death, or just have always been curious about reading the source material for the movie, this is a great way to do it. Biggest recommendation is to start with, I think it's Christopher Priest's run starting in 1998. Is really highly regarded, so if you need a starting point, start there.
Very cool. And also, I do want to do a shout out to a podcast series that I've really been enjoying for a while now. So I don't remember how I come across it, but there's a show called Spawn on Me, and it's run by, I think his name's Khalif. But this show is absolutely excellent. And one of the best episodes that they've put out shortly followed the murder of George Floyd. And so they've got an episode called A Lesson in Blackness. It's a full roundtable of Black gaming creators or streamers. And it was just such a powerful conversation at the time. And there's a sequel to A Lesson in Blackness. And they actually were recording when the news of Boseman's passing came through. And so, again, a very excellent conversation. I really enjoy the Spawn on Me podcast in general, but man, those 2 episodes in particular is powerful stuff. Some of the best gaming podcasts out there, just period. I would even argue that it's some of the best discussion podcasts out there, period.
Wow. That is high praise.
Yeah. I watched some of it and it was really good.
Yep. Absolutely adore all the work that they're doing over there. And so, Zach, what has been tickling your brain space aside from games? We'll get to games here in a second.
Shoot. Of course, lots of work stuff. I work constantly, but
glad to know some of us are.
Yeah, my after my foot injury, I've been fighting with my backyard. I got some weird stuff going on with my driveway, so I'm salting the land and raising it so that nothing can ever grow in my driveway again.
You look up some Viking shit or something to make this happen?
I might be taking after some old Roman nonsense, and I'm salting my driveway to hell
That's
and back
hilarious.
to destroy the pH levels and make it unhabitable for anything.
You know there's going to be some crabgrass that's still just like giant middle fingers coming up out of the ground.
Oh, it's okay. It's getting a daily shower of salt and vinegar.
Jeez.
Vinegar to destroy the membrane of the outside of the plant and let it get soaked up into the root system, and salt to keep it dead and dry.
Man, you came at this with a battle strategy.
Well, we don't want to use chemicals in the yard or anything really, so
Fair
we're
enough.
going for a non-chemical approach, and the giant things of salt are 40 cents. Unless you buy Morton, then it's $2.40 because you're paying $2 for a brand name.
Well,
So 8 jars of salt is like $2. And I can just
heck you, grass.
yeah, because I was checking it out this morning before I went back out before we came to sit down for this, and there was a place where I just wanted to test out just leaving a line of it through what was growing,
Yeah.
and it's just brown.
Nice.
See,
So I bought some
me-
extra and I dumped it on heavier and coated everything with vinegar again this morning. So
For me, I would not fight it that hard, but we also have something called winter that just comes through and kills everything for about 9 months of the year. And then you just deal with grass for 4 months.
Know what it's going to be like in Texas. Because we're
hot
in
and
what's
humid.
known as like the wet season right now. I guess. I don't know. It rains a lot more than it did, and it definitely seems more gloomier than before. But, like, I don't know. The grass doesn't grow very fast at all. We haven't mowed since we got here about a couple months ago, and it's still, like, not super high.
that's good.
Hmm.
See, I got Bermuda grass in my lawn, or it's called wiregrass, like more where we're from.
Yep.
It thrives in like tropical climate because it literally like vines its way out. That's the stuff that like roots down and roots across and then just kind of like shoots up and across and down. So it's really hard to get rid of.
Yeah.
So if you get that, you'll have it forever because it's also really resilient. Like it's a good grass if you want it to be your grass. I just don't because it's in my gardening spots and I don't like that.
Get out of here.
Fair.
So one of the things that I did while I was gone, and I was kind of against this at first, but we went to the movies, and luckily I was one of 5 people in the theater. It was like me, my sister, her husband, and then a couple like way down towards the bottom of the theater, right? So we went and watched New Mutants, which is a horror kind of take on an X-Men story. And there's some very valid criticisms about this production. The actual creator of the comics had some choice things to say. I don't even remember his name. I don't remember what he said. I just looked it up briefly. But I thought it was kind of a fun movie. It's got some really cool stuff. Maisie Williams is excellent, as usual. The dude that's he plays the boy, the teenage boy in Stranger Things. He's in this, too, and he plays like a redneck kind of character and named Sam. And he's amazing. I love it. But, you know, it's one of the better X-Men movies I've seen because I typically don't like X-Men movies, but I thought this one was a fun experiment. I wish it would have taken the original direction because I think this went through development hell.
Oh,
But you
it
can
had
see-
to have been because it's like 3 years late now.
Yeah. So it's been, all over the place. But the original idea of it being more horror oriented, I think that original cut or idea is way better than likely what we got.
Yeah.
But like it's got some cool moments in it and the creature design is fun.
Yeah, it seems like it's one of those movies that the more you're familiar with the source material, the more disappointed you might be. Because
And
I
I
think
was
the
absolutely like no knowledge of the original comics at all.
yeah, because I think the original is a little bit more like horror based or like thriller, because it is about this new string of mutants that are considered exceptionally dangerous, and
Yeah.
they have trauma built around the fact that when my power manifested, it murdered a whole city or whatever. That kind of levels of trauma being dealt with, and there are like little things like how do you like in the final credits or whatever the contribution credit to the original author is spelled wrong.
I
Like,
don't
I
know
can't
if
even
saw
imagine,
it
like,
live in
whoever's
the theater,
job
but I
that
saw people
was-
talking about that.
Like whoever's job that was really dropped the ball. One,
Yeah.
in misspelling it in the first place. Two, not double checking it. And three, the fact that it got past how many other people just as is to the point that when the person goes and sees the movie based off of their stuff, and then they see their name on screen, it's spelled wrong, and it's considered not a great adaptation of his original work.
Yeah.
Like, I would walk away kind of salty first. Like, not like it's bad enough that you didn't like honor the original work or misrepresented it in a way that you didn't feel like could have been better. But then your name is spelled wrong on top of it. Like, oh my goodness.
Like I said, lots of valid criticisms. Just at the very, very surface level, though, I thought it was a fun movie.
Right, and if you walk,
I had more fun with it than I did any other X-Men movie aside from Logan. That's the only movie that I would hold above it as far as just like my personal enjoyment. And you got to think that my level of enjoyment when it comes to movies versus video games is way lower. Like, I am very easily amused in a movie theater. And so I thought it was fun. I love the fact that the main character is a Native American girl who is gay. I thought that was super cool. And the whole time we were like hoping that would be the case. And yeah, there is definitely a relationship there. And it's super cool in my opinion. Some of the CG looks pretty good. I mean, I don't know.
I mean, I like
fine.
superhero movies, so
Yeah.
I usually have a good time watching them.
It feels different than most superhero movies because of that horror angle. So, like, at the end of the day, it's worth a rental, I think.
All
Probably
right.
not in most cities go to the theaters for it. Because that's a huge debate going on right now. Like, Cinemark put out a press release in regards to Tenet that was like, you could risk your life to go watch a movie because that's what the original director wanted it to be seen, not on a cell phone. And everybody's like, I don't know, Cinemark.
Maybe re-release it in a few months when we have a better idea of what's going on.
Yeah.
I think it's Bill and Ted released like you could get it on demand, like online at the same time, so that you didn't ever have to go out. They were like, just enjoy the movie. Fuck it.
The movie in particular that was the most egregious was any of the marketing that Cinemark was doing for Tenet. I think it was Cinemark. But Tenet in particular was something that they were pitching as, oh, you can go back to the movies now. We've done this, this, and this, and this is how movies are supposed to be enjoyed. And I'm like, I disagree. And I only went to the movies because I knew I'd be one of like 10 people in the whole room, and they're big rooms, and like we always, took the precautions, you wear the mask, do the hand sanitizer, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah.
And it was a fine experience. Popcorn is actually affordable for whatever reason. They're like, oh, because you're back at the theaters, here's some affordable popcorn. And while I appreciate that, it also just makes me cringe inside. So I don't know, going to the movies in a pandemic, not recommended in most places, but in a random city in West Virginia, it worked out for me.
Fair enough. It's also kind of weird to think that, like, you usually don't see a movie delayed this long and still actually come out.
Yeah.
Right.
And, like, if you were, like, thinking about all of these performers, especially, like, Maisie Williams, who was peak Game of Thrones stardom 3 or 4 years ago, and then you, like, see them, like, the movie trailers and you see the movie, and then you look at her now, she's 3 to 4 years older than she was when she filmed this movie, and it just came out. Like, that's it's just wild to me.
That's a lot, yeah. And
Among shots where Maisie like promotes it and she's definitely older, and I'm like, right.
Yeah, absolutely. But I'm glad you had fun. I'll definitely be. I'll probably rent it at some point. But it definitely seems like a fun.
Yeah.
Like different
Fair
look at the
warning,
X-Men universe.
There's some very racist things said toward the Native American girl by the Russian chick, so that's unfortunate. Wasn't a fan of that. But it ends up like reconciling later, and the characters all kind of like get together. So it was just a very mean-spirited thing that I'm like, wish they would have wrote against that, because I'm not a fan.
I mean, if it's to build towards something like them coming together and reconciling later, or to like show, this character is crappy. It can be used effectively.
It definitely made me come into that character being like, I don't like that bitch.
Well, maybe if that was the intention, then they did a good job.
Yeah, I don't know. Either way, just so people know, I know a lot of things can hit a lot harder now than usual. So just so you're aware. There's a couple of racist words in there, and they're not fun.
It's a good heads up.
Yeah. Other than that, let's talk video games, gentlemen. Zachary, what have you been playing? Because I have a feeling that you're struggling more than most of us with difficulty.
Oh man, I have been playing Mortal Shell. We got
Mm.
a
So
good
that's like the
copy for
new
him.
walking simulator, right? The really pleasant walking simulator.
Yeah, walking right off of some edges. Actually, I haven't struggled too much with it, but
Nice.
Joe got to watch me play and get kicked off of this fucking tower after I walked all the way to the top.
It's
No.
true. Luckily, you did find an elevator.
Yeah, that was actually super handy and very scary on the way back. Because
In all
earlier,
seriousness, this is a new Souls-like game that actually had a lot of promise and some pretty good production value. So it was really cool to see like a modern take on the Souls-like genre with a couple tweaks here and there. But it's very much a Dark Souls style game, and I'm excited to like actually sit down and play it eventually. But Zach has the review code; he's working on it for us, and
mhm,
so he's been streaming it, which is super cool.
yep, I'm keeping it as a like collection. So if anybody wants to watch part of the run from beginning to end and see what the process is for me going through Souls-like games, which is a lot more tedious than most, fair warning. I think Joe even mentioned that this is way more tedious than he enjoyed.
Yeah, it's not tiptoeing my way through a level to bait one enemy into coming down a hallway towards me is not my idea of a good time.
It's efficient, and it is
It's
safe.
efficient. Efficiency.
I'd be the
But,
guy trying to figure out the strategy on how to take them all down in like one go.
Yeah.
That's actually something I'm gonna play with next. Is I now have all the shells unlocked, which
Oh,
I
cool.
just you get them really early, and I walked by all of them. So now I actually have them all unlocked, and I'm gonna play with them. They all have quite different abilities. Like the
Cool.
guy I've been playing is like your balanced one. Then you have a dude that has a health bar that's like this much of your screen, and then you have one that's a stamina bar that's like that, but his health is like itty bitty. So they've got a lot of like play, and I still suck at parrying. And apparently the fourth one that I don't use at all is built around parrying.
Oh, okay.
That would do it.
It's what, 4 or 5 shells? And for anybody
4.
that's unfamiliar with this game, that's the main gimmick. Is you're like a weird, gross skeleton kind of dude, and you hop in to these like bodies of fallen heroes.
Yeah, I didn't know any of that
I
when
don't
I
know
went
if
to
I
go
would call them
watch.
heroes.
Okay, but there's 4, is what you're saying.
Yeah, yeah.
Because
Okay.
you had like some gross Wendigo creature punch you, and then your like meat body ripped itself free of this like statue, and then was like wandering around and without skin, and I was like, ew.
Yeah. Oh, it's pretty gross. Like you got to see me fight the weird twin boss dude with his little buddy hanging off of his chest
Oh,
very briefly. Oh, it's super gross. But
fun.
when you kill like a boss, like slight spoiler, not really spoiler because you're going to kill a boss.
Yeah.
You see what they look like normally like now, like you fight them in some sort of like realm. Shit's real weird for like how it changes like visually and illusionary in like an illusionary sense. But when you see the real deal, like after you finish a boss to see what it looks like after you're done, it looks disgusting, like body horror disgusting.
Great.
So
Which usually I'm not a fan of, but for some reason you pair that with like the cool symphonic soundtracks that a lot of these Souls-like games have, and I'm like, I can dig it.
Yeah, body
like
horror
Blasphemous.
with
Dude,
sin.
Blasphemous is gross, but man, it's pretty.
but
So you get yourself all amped up with Mortal Shell, and then you bring yourself back down with. You've been playing Spiritfarer.
Yes, and Spiritfarer
Yeah.
is super adorable. I haven't been playing it as much as I should because I've been setting it up to where Lauren and I can do some play together and get to see how the co-op works. I dabbled in it a little bit because I wanted to run around as the cat.
Yeah. And
the
you are
cat-
on Switch, right?
I'm on Switch.
Nice.
And the cat can play with the oven. Like, can go in there and cook. And it's like, meow.
Oh,
It's like cooking stuff.
what
It's
an adorable game!
Oh man, it is.
And that's
It's so
another one that
pretty.
you're doing a review for. So that and Mortal Show codes provided by the various companies, which is super cool. We're really thankful when that happens.
Yeah, and
Yes.
these are two games that I was personally really excited about.
Yeah.
And of course, being able to have my hands on with them, like I get to see all the things that I was hoping for, and I get to see some things that weren't so great, and we'll get to talk about all those. So, but that'll be
Definitely.
fun.
Looking forward to those reviews. Speaking of reviews, Joe's got one cooking in the oven. Joe, what have you been playing, bro?
Yeah, I recently finished up playing through Samurai Jack Battle Through Time. As
Awesome.
someone who's a huge fan of the original series, it was one of those series that even as a child, when I didn't have cable access, and I would go somewhere with cable, and if it was on, I was watching it because it just stood out. Everything else was like happy and silly and like comedic based, and then there was Samurai Jack, which took this really serious approach to animation, which aside from superheroes, you hadn't really seen much. So you had Batman and Justice League and things like that, but outside of that, you never really saw anything more serious in nature. And while Samurai Jack does have moments of levity and comedy, it really like you have an entire episode with like maybe 4 words of spoken dialogue, and the rest of the 20 minutes is just one fight scene.
Yeah.
Incredibly well paced, incredibly well planned, and like really distinct animation style, really distinct action. They would use like multi-framing, like a comic book, to show off multiple angles of an action shot at the same time, which from an animation perspective is nuts, especially because you have to draw it. So
Yeah.
you're drawing the same action with the same timing from multiple perspectives shown on screen at the same time.
Now, I'm familiar with Samurai Jack, but I've never sat down and like watched it succinctly. I only caught episodes randomly. And my understanding is that show matured in its final season because it went on hiatus for a long time.
Yeah, it was
Came back.
basically it was considered done. Like,
Yeah.
and then it was brought back for a 5th and final season, which is pretty good. I still really enjoyed it, but it was
Yeah.
a little bit more dialogue based than the previous 4 seasons, and I don't know if that was because they realized they had this one season to wrap up this story, and there was a lot of story to get through still. But like you kind of see a more beaten down Jack, who's kind of given up, like lost some hopelessness or whatever, and it's about him getting that back and getting back on track.
So
But
where does Battle Through Time take place then?
right, kind of like it's basically a filler, kind of like it takes place kind of outside the actual timeline story.
Okay.
Aku basically does a ooh-ha-ha and throws Jack in a parallel back in time thing, and he's got to basically fight his way back through all of these different locations and enemies and things like that to get back to his original timeline so he can do the final encounter with Aku. So it's kind of like it reuses a lot of the story points from the original while introducing some new ones. So there's some characters from the series that you see again, and you kind of have to like reintroduce yourself to some of them. Some of them know that it's different. All the meanwhile, there is someone who is working on trying to get you back and helping you as you chase down these various like points in time. Because after you
the
fulfill
Scotsman again.
yes,
I love the Scotsman.
he's great.
Fun.
But it's a Souls-like in the sense that it requires parrying and dodging and attacking in various weapon types to fight your way through. It's a significantly easier Souls-like than an actual Souls game. I would say about the 3rd or 4th level, it started to amp up in difficulty, and I started actually having some trouble. I got to the last level and actually had to go back and replay some areas to get the experience needed to level up some things in order to actually finish the final level. So I thought that was kind of nice. Overall, it's a good game. It's not great.
Surprising with some third-party renditions of these sort of properties when something is like pretty good, and we're getting that more and more and more as video games are taken more seriously. So I'm glad that it's good. but I'm not surprised that it's not great.
Yeah, for a video game based on a cartoon series, it's very good. For a tie-in
That's cool.
game, it's very good compared to other games. I would say, like, if you were to compare it to like the old Harry Potter games that came out after every movie, like
Right.
it's definitely a better game than those. And considering we're in an age where we're not seeing a video game adaptation of every single movie, it's kind of nice that when there is one, it's not a bad trip. It was a fun way to like, see Samurai Jack in like 3D and to play as him. Where I think it falls short is one of the things that the series really emphasized was Jack's ability to do tactics and adjust on the fly and learn, and you don't really feel that. It's not like in Legend of Zelda where you pick up a new weapon and you have to use that weapon or tool against the boss. You can kind of just go at it however you want. And there are some really iconic moments that are built into the show. Things like the Tower of the Blind Archers, the fight Shadow versus Light, where it's just stark white and black for the whole episode, and you see them passing through areas of shadow and light and swapping color palettes and things. Like, I was really looking forward to really creative boss fights, and I kind of ended up beating every single boss exactly the same. And so that was a little disappointing because I was really hoping that it would dive in and give you some really creative boss fights, because the show showcased really creative scenarios for significant fights in the story.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it did nail it, though, is when you get a crowd of like weak enemies, and in the show Jack is like, and then like 6 of them explode at the same time.
Right,
Those
yeah.
moments feel really good in the game because you like hit a few buttons and 6 of them die and explode. And so that felt good. And I think they could have pushed it a little bit further if, when you activated a special attack, they utilized some of that multi-framing that you would see in the show as a part of the gameplay. But the only time you see it is during pre-rendered cutscenes. And so if it had been implemented into the gameplay a little bit more, I think that would have been more fun. But to see it at all was kind of cool that they threw back and pulled in those moments, at least in the cutscenes. The cutscenes are great, and the story is pretty good overall. But in terms of making you feel like Samurai Jack, like the PS4 Spider-Man makes you feel like Spider-Man, it doesn't quite meet that level.
Or that really bad VR Batman, where like every review is like makes you feel like Batman.
I mean, it's kind of a cliche way to put it, but I didn't feel like Samurai Jack. I felt like I was playing a game with Samurai Jack in it, but at no point did I feel like I was controlling or I was Samurai Jack.
Fair enough. Zach, there was a message that we got involving a game that you've actually, I think, either got to finish or play most of it. So we were contacted through our website to pick up something. Tell me about that.
So Matt, what is his last name?
I think the game is what, Paladin Dream?
It is called Paladin Dream.
Yeah,
he created it in RPG Maker.
Mm-hmm.
And it was pretty good. I was really surprised, like, cause it was a little game. It's real straight to the point. Mm-hmm. It gives you a big throwback to nostalgic, like, how do you word it? It's almost like old, like Final Fantasy 1, 2, 3 type.
Yeah, or a Dragon Quest or something like that.
Yeah, because you have characters. There's snappy character development. It's not overly jarring. There's enough that, like, plot wise, that like really kept me like interested in what was going on.
Cool.
I was really surprised. This was good. It was a fun little like break from everything I've been doing for a while too. So yeah. It was fun. I just got to get the review done on it. I might even play through it a little bit more to get a couple more screenshots, but I've beat it. I was happy with it. Proud of that guy. So
cool. I'm glad he got in touch with us. That's the first time that somebody has come to us specifically and been like, hey, I'm a dev, here's my game, I really would love it if you got to play it and talk about it at some point if you feel inclined. And so when I saw that, I was like, oh, cool, people are noticing. And then turns out it's a fun game, and it's actually like kind of an interesting example of something made in RPG Maker. So that's like super cool.
Even
Always love it
better.
when that kind of thing comes together.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, like using RPG Maker, I could see where there were some limitations in it, like for because there's a lot of monsters when you fight
Yeah.
in the games like this. So some of them, like two or three, have like a maybe, but most of them are really nice. Like the character models match up with what's going on. The attacks are good. Um, yeah, I think.
There's
Whoa.
one RPG Maker game that I played called Skyborn that was like a steampunk kind of RPG. I thought that one was pretty good. But speaking of RPG Maker MV is now available on, I think, most consoles at the moment. I have it on Switch, and I got a code from NAS America, and it's a bit above my head as far as like the type of tool that it is. But technically, it works. You can make a game on Switch and distribute it through the internet, and anybody and everybody can download the RPG Maker player through the Switch and be able to just jump in and play games. Like, you don't need the actual full-priced game to just go out
Oh,
and play
interesting.
stuff. Yeah, which I thought was really cool.
Here's a
But the
question for you.
problem,
If you
yeah,
develop
okay.
a game on the Switch, could I play it on the player on PC or another console?
I would like to say yes, but I would have to look up very specific information. And to be honest, a lot of times NIS America aren't the greatest about putting in that very specific information in their details, both on the product store and in their
Okay.
press releases. So I'm going to say maybe.
Okay. Yeah, because I'd be curious about the different versions and if they're like if I'm developing on PC, could I send it to my
Mhm.
Switch and try it on there on the go?
Which would be very, very appealing, right?
Yeah.
Now, the problem with RPG Maker MV on the Switch is that everything feels super slow because it like is constantly processing things, and this will probably be ironed out by the time you guys get a hold of it if anybody wants to play it. But when I was messing with it, like you would load into a screen, make a couple changes, load into a different screen, and that load time was actually long enough to notice. And
Hmm.
so that made the whole development and tinkering process that much slower, which is not what you want in a game development program. Like, for example, something like Mario Maker is very snappy. And
Yeah.
in a way, I'm spoiled by Mario Maker because I can be like, oh, I've got an idea for a level, and then put out a rough draft in 10 minutes. To do that in RPG Maker, you're spending several hours. But the desktop version is way snappier because I've used it before. I just never was very good at it. So there's a very short tutorial in the beginning of the Switch version, which is great to get you started, but I wish that there was more tutorials built into the game that you could play through, because this only scratches the very, very, very surface level of what you're capable of doing. And so there's a lot of stuff you can make, like a Dragon Quest battle system. There's the classic Final Fantasy like 4 battle system, and it's neat to finally see that because that's the one thing that I've always liked about that era of RPGs is
Yeah.
having, four characters on the side and then however many monsters on the left. That's my favorite type of RPGs because I love the Final Fantasy series. And so I'm glad that that's in the MV version, and there's
Right.
lots of assets, there's lots of different styles of assets. So for anybody that just really wants to tinker on the go, it's pretty cool, but I wish it was better. And I can't wait to see what people do with it, just in general. And I have a feeling that typing dialogue on the Switch will suck balls. But you can probably hook a keyboard to it. I don't know. It's weird and neat.
They're gonna come out with like an apparatus where you just chunk it onto the bottom of the entire Switch, and
Makes it a little Apple II.
yeah,
That would be freaking cool, actually. We need mouse support for Super Mario Maker 2. Real bad.
you know what? You know what?
That'd be super handy.
RPG Maker on Switch needs Ring Fit support.
Oh, now we're talking.
Oh man.
More games actually need to
Can
use
you
that ring. That would
imagine?
be amazing.
But there's like, of course, I'm playing it while the press are playing it, so there's like nothing to download and rant and rave about. I'll like check in with it throughout the next few months if I feel so inclined, and let you guys know if I stumble across any gems. But for now, like the PC version of RPG Maker is still where it's at, especially if you can get it on sale through like Humble Bundle or something.
So how do you feel this, like, this game in this space exists, how do you think it compares in a space where things like Dreams exists?
Oh, between it and I've not played Dreams, but from what I've seen people do with Dreams and how much easier that interface is to just mold to your will, I would say Dreams is kind of a feat of like miraculous development.
Uh,
And by comparison, RPG Maker feels very, very basic. But
but
you can
for
still do a
someone,
lot with it.
yeah, I'd be curious to see, like, because it's kind of that classic retro RPG feel, I'd be curious to see someone pursue developing something like that within Dreams, because Dreams is very 3D based, even though you can do so many different tools with it. I'd be curious to see someone pursue a more retro style on it. I've not dived into Dreams too much, but most of what I've seen is like someone did like an animation of walking through this gorgeous, amazingly rendered forest that they had modeled within the like all of this is built within Dreams on a PS4, and some of the things that that are created on it is phenomenally well done. Like, I don't know how people have the time, or like they pick up the tool set well enough to like develop a walking through a beautiful forest within. It's only been out for like what, 6 months, 6 to 8 months.
Yeah.
That's
A
nuts.
little longer if you got into the testing phase, because
Right.
I think Media Molecule allowed certain creative folks to get access to it. That way they'd have, things to play whenever it came out.
Yeah. A friend of mine has it. He was a big fan of like the Little Big Planet games and things like that, and being able to, Mod Nation, Mod Racer Nation or whatever it was, and so they, my friend really enjoys those types of games. So downloading Dreams and being able to like download and try out all these different kinds of games, not just limited to platformer based or racing based things, is pretty cool. And they haven't touched it a ton in recent months, but every now and then they hear about like a really cool project and they'll go check it out. And they said it's really cool.
RPG Maker MV is available on Switch and PS4 currently. Also, PC, much more robust over there. But I believe it's a full-priced game. And for what it is, that seems a little high for me. But,
Dreams is like $40.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And speaking of prices, do you guys want to get into some video game news? Because we've got some bullshit.
Yeah, let's dive into it. We've
Which
been waiting on
which
this.
BS do you want to start with?
Let's start at the top. I'm mad at Nintendo. Big surprise.
Specifically, I'm guessing about the
35th anniversary of Mario. Yep.
the collection 3D All Stars or whatever.
Yeah, so for anybody that missed it, it's a pretty big announcement. It was kind of shadow dropped, but Nintendo put out a 35th anniversary of Mario Nintendo Direct that covered a lot of really cool stuff, like a Mario Kart remote RC that you play in your house on your Switch.
Yeah, you
and
can
you
set up your own
little
tracks.
flags to make up tracks, and like it's the coolest thing.
Yeah.
So like I even as an adult, I'm like, oh man, I could like race my little cars around in the Christmas tree, and it'll be great. But it's a really cool thing, and that probably has a caveat. I don't know, but it seems like Nintendo will put out something really, really neat, and then in the margins there'll be a star and there'll be some bullshit. And that's what's happened with the very last announcement of the video. They are releasing Super Mario 64, Super Mario Sunshine, and Super Mario Galaxy. So 3 classic 3D platformers.
Yep.
They're releasing them as Super Mario All-Stars 3D or Super Mario 3D All-Stars. Either way, it's 3D All-Stars, lots of Mario games.
Yeah.
And so that's a $60 purchase. Sweet. Expected. Understood, Mr. Nintendo. Would have liked it at 40, but 60 is your MO, so fine.
So
I will buy it at 60.
The big deal here is Sunshine's inclusion. This is the first time the game's been available on any other platform aside from the GameCube physically.
Yes.
You can emulate
Yeah.
it on PC and on Wii U. You can homebrew your Wii U and get it. That's doable. But you can get Mario 64, Mario Galaxy 2 on Wii U right now on the eShop there for less than $60.
Wow, that's funny.
Yeah.
Huh.
I think the total, because I think the Galaxy games are $20 a piece.
Makes sense.
So it'd be like $47, I think, or maybe
Right.
$47 to $52, somewhere in that.
Excluding Sunshine, because again,
Yeah,
this is the
you
first
can't
time
get
we've
Sunshine.
seen Sunshine
So
officially.
the inclusion of Sunshine would maybe push it up to 60 if you could, but considering you're getting Galaxy and Galaxy 2 on the Wii U, that's something that. But I think what you're really
Still
upset
all right,
about,
man.
I think what you're really upset about is the fact that not only is it $60, you can well, I'll let you take it.
You can't buy it after March 31st, 2021. Why? And you know, when I'm reading this, I was like, surely they just mean the physical version's gonna be limited. No, them motherfuckers are gonna remove the digital copy off the eShop on March 31st. It's all over their website, in blatant English, like, here's what's gonna happen. And that's bullshit.
Yeah,
no,
I'm upset about
that's
it.
super
There's
crazy.
no reason for that.
the
All
only
they're
thing
doing is creating a false scarcity to drive market interest for 6 months, which granted will work, sure, but like Nintendo's worst enemy to video game preservation is themselves.
Well, that's but the thing is they're some of the best at bringing. Like they've always re-released their games on current consoles.
And then
Granted,
remove it from the eShop of the previous console.
that's true.
Did you hear about that?
With
They
Pikmin
fixed
3.
it. Yeah, so Pikmin 3, whenever it was announced to be a Switch title, everybody's like, oh, cool, it's going to have some extra stuff. But if you were to go to try and buy the digital version on Wii U, it was just gone. But now it's just back, so, like, Nintendo's paying attention. So if we raise enough of a stink, maybe they'll rescind this idea. I
Yeah.
don't know.
The
But
only
regardless,
th-
it's stupid.
It wouldn't have surprised me if after they remove like the collection is
Yeah.
removed, but then each of the games will be available individually for like,
30 a
individually
pop or
priced or
something.
whatever. And then you would end up spending more or whatever. I don't know. It just seems like a weird way to do it.
Joe,
But for
why,
from
why
the get-go,
does Activision have a better deal with their game releases than Nintendo?
the thing I don't fully understand is just have them available individually right away, because if someone only wants Sunshine, they
Yeah.
shouldn't have to spend $60 to get Sunshine and then 2 games they don't want or already have other versions of.
Honestly, I'm not surprised that they're pricing them out individually at $60. That seems like the Nintendo play.
Yeah, that's what I was worried about.
hmm
Yeah.
But regardless, I guess eventually I'll pick this up at Target because I'm dumb and really like Nintendo stuff.
if you're
and I miss
smart, pick up
Sunshine.
2 copies and hang on to it.
Yeah, maybe. But like, even that's what makes me so mad is that I know it's infuriating and it's the most anti-player, anti-consumer thing I've seen in a while, but I'm still gonna support it. And I'm just like, damn you, Nintendo.
Oh.
And the thing that sucks is they're also like, so a while back they had a hacker put together Super Mario NES Battle Royale. The goal was who can last the longest, right? It's a really fun hack. Ran Pooh Bear, all the like Mario people played it. It was very fun. And of course, cease and desist hammer comes in from Nintendo, and they're like, no, can't have that. And so they changed up all the assets. It still plays like Mario, but that's still available. But now Nintendo's doing their own version, which is cool, whatever. I wish you would pay the guy that come up with the idea.
Well, it's
'cause
possible
clearly it's
like
kind of a rip of that.
it's possible they already had something in development at the time and they needed to.
Yeah, maybe.
You're not so sure. Well, they could easily claim that it was on the docket somewhere forever ago. Because,
I mean-
I'm sure that somebody has spitballed every idea there is
the number
ever.
of things that they probably just have like written down from various meetings, like oh yeah, we definitely had, after Tetris Battle Royale went good, we decided to see if there was a way to do Mario and Zelda Battle Royale.
Yeah.
And so they probably have all of these just like written down and registered somewhere.
And honestly, it looks really fun, but that's another game that's going to be available. The way you play it is the same way you play the Tetris one. So you have to have a Switch Online account, right? Like you have to pay the fee. which is fine and dandy. Make that worth, make it more valuable for the players. But the problem is they're going to remove that game as well on March 31st. It's like, why not just leave it? Like, what?
Oh yeah, that is
It's
weird.
not going to take that strong of a server. You're Nintendo. I know online is not your strong suit, and it's probably not going to work when it comes out. But like,
Ugh.
why? Why all this temporary shit? And in a way, I kind of blame Fortnite because they dwell on temporary shit. And like, there's like, that is one of the worst ways to approach a video game in my opinion, because I'm the guy that'll be like, oh, I want to play the werewolf match or whatever in Fortnite 4 years after it happened. And I know that's like kind of a niche thing, but when you're talking about a single player game or like a very specific type of game, there's no reason why it shouldn't just be available.
So for me, where I struggle with this is current generation Pokemon games. I think it started with like X and Y, with like their free downloadable like event Pokemon. One of my favorite things back in like the red, blue, gold, and silver days was to play through it, beat everything there was to beat, and then immediately start over. Because I like playing through the game with different teams, different starters, and things like that. Figuring out which ones are my favorite, which ones are fit. Like that was something I enjoyed doing. And then when they started doing this, I was hesitant to start over because I would lose those like special Pokemon that were only available for a certain amount of time, and I wouldn't get them back. And without a second copy of the game or a second
save file.
Yeah. And it'd be. So when you have those types of things in place, I'm like, well, there goes half the fun. Like, instead of 500 hours in Pokemon, I'm getting 40. Because instead of starting over and trying a different team, I was never really big on getting the whole Pokedex, but I was big on, like, trying new things and playing through, trying different strategies to beat various gym leaders or seeing if I could beat it faster than I did the previous time and things like that. That was something I enjoyed in those series, and they kind of, I don't know, soured it with, one, not spending as much time in developing an interesting or challenging single player experience and investing all of their time and efforts into streamlining the multiplayer. Like, everything is centered around the online and competitive parts of the game, and that's not why I played Pokemon. I played Pokemon because it was fun to collect monsters and make them fight. Like, I never really played much with my friends because there wasn't many of us to go around, and then you had to have the link cable and all that stuff, and we usually did that for like trading, making sure we could get our Alakazams and stuff like that.
Right. That's what has always irritated me about Nintendo, is it seems like there's such a low effort, obvious path they could take with things, and then they don't. There's reports going out right now back to Sunshine that the modern port of Sunshine won't be compatible with a GameCube controller. Which is weird because Smash Brothers is compatible, and most games technically work with it. I was playing Dead Cells with mine the other day, so, and it'll probably work, just maybe not in the capacity you would want it to.
Well, doesn't it have the button prompts for...
Probably.
Yeah.
But the other thing is
there's the X button prompt, as it would appear on a GameCube controller.
Not anymore.
Nintendo, man. But in Super Mario Galaxy, you play that game with a Wii and a nunchuck, right?
Yeah.
So what people are thinking is, more than likely, you're going to have to play that with Joy-Cons, right? What are Switch Lite players going to do? They're just not going to play, I guess.
Well, you can technically get Joy-Cons and play.
Yeah, sure.
But you're going to be playing on a screen this big.
It's so weird, dude. I don't understand what goes through their heads sometimes. Like, there's so many things they could do that would take very little time. Like, within 6 months, somebody could sit down and put the entire NES library on their fucking online service, and it would just be there. And that would be such a huge drive of additional sales for their online service.
Yeah.
And they're already, like, I don't know, it seems so easy.
Yeah.
The Nintendo irritates me, is the gist. There's some very cool stuff in general, but there's always that one thing that just irritates the shit out of me.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of
it's
this.
usually the same kind of thing here.
I'm not a fan of this get it before it goes back in the vault mentality.
Nope. Wasn't a fan when
No.
Disney popularized it. Will never be a fan because having things available is important,
I would say
digitally and physically.
the easiest thing to compare it to is Sony and the PS4 and their exclusives. And within like a year, their exclusive games go down to like $20. And
sometimes that's
Nintendo,
when
like
people
there is
really buy it.
there is no reason Breath of the Wild is still $60.
No. Now, granted, they did do a good job in the Wii U and the Wii era because they had a series called Nintendo Selects where they would take some of the most popular titles and just sell them for $20 flat.
Yeah, and GameCube does have like player's choice, but it's still just like
We don't have that for Switch.
yeah, and you
need
never like it wasn't until late that you got it for 3DS. And those were like $40 games being dropped down to 20.
Yeah.
And so, I don't know, it's just kind of like, come on Nintendo, just drop your prices like a regular game company.
Granted, it's getting better, but it's still not where most people would want it to be. Like, if they put Mario Kart 8 Deluxe down to $20 and just said, hey, you know, we're celebrating Mario Kart for this month, pick it up for $20 if you don't have it digitally.
Oh, they would sell it a buttload.
Hotcakes.
Yeah.
That's why Steam thrives, is because half the time they'll be like, oh, this game that you, like, paid half of attention to, it's $5 now, you want it, and then, like, 4 million people buy it, and the developers make that much more money.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, Nintendo's missing out on that mentality. It's a good one to have. Like, I really like that Steam does that.
Yeah.
Somebody
Granted-
else needs to be in charge of how Nintendo deals with digital sales.
They need some serious marketing people or something, and I don't know if it's just like the old school Japanese mentality, which is at the core of their entire company, or what it is, but something needs to be shaken up.
Yeah.
I mean, they could just outsource it. I know that's not
That's what
something
I'm
they would
saying.
like to do, but that's a whole nother set of opinions going, hey, this will make this work. This is what
You
we're
could
going to
hire
do.
any hacker from the emulation communities, and they could probably do the entire NES library within a couple months. Some
Oh,
of them
yeah.
I would be convinced could do it in less than 24 hours.
Some of them probably already have it ready and then
Yeah.
just sell it to
Homebrew's a thing.
structure to Nintendo.
But they won't do that because they don't like emulation. And
I
it's
think
just,
I think
it's
one of the smartest things Nintendo could do
bad about it.
is instead of handing out all these cease and desists, make them legitimate. Make some of these projects like if it seems like a good passionate project that fits in line with Nintendo's vision for a franchise, make it a legitimate project. Announce that you're supporting these passionate creators, which would incentivize people who are passionate about Nintendo products to do a better job on passion projects. Because if they do a good enough job, Nintendo might actually buy it.
It works for Sega. Fans made the best Sonic game, period.
Yeah.
Sonic Mania is, like, excellent. One of the best-selling games that they've ever had.
True.
Made by hackers.
But
They're like, you did it right.
on
Keep doing it.
On another note, this week was big on the PC gaming side because while
Yes.
Sony and Xbox are hesitant to give a price, NVIDIA came out and was like, hey, here's some new graphics cards and here's some pricing. They did this really amazing kind of like showcase of various statistics over the years with their graphics cards, and then started announcing their new line. Let's see if I can find it. But it featured like the CEO like in a kitchen.
Nice.
And like at one point he like goes back and like grabs a graphic card from behind some spatulas. And then at one point he pulls their new flagship card out of the oven.
That's amazing.
So like they definitely had some fun with it, but like not only is like the RTX 30 series has faster processing in it, comparable VRAM but faster VRAM, so things will load faster and smoother. You're going to find more stable frame rates and things like that. The connectivity with your motherboard and your CPU is going to be faster. All those things. But what you're
That's a
looking
beefy
at
card.
is the big announcement was the 3070. performs
yeah.
twice as good as the 2080 at half the price.
Amazing.
$499 gets you a 3070, which performs, right here on the screen, we've got 3070 faster than a 2080 Ti
That's sick.
at $499, which is much cheaper than the 2080 Ti.
That's amazing. I've got a 1080, I think, in mine.
And this isn't a see you next. These are our 2021 line. This is October. So
Like
these
next
cards,
month.
these cards are coming out before the next gen consoles at competitive pricing of those consoles,
Probably.
and we don't even know the pricing of the consoles yet. Like NVIDIA nailed it with their RTX 30 series launch announcement.
That's so cool.
And
now,
then,
are these the type of cards that do ray tracing and such?
yes, this is the RTX ray tracing
Sick.
RTX series.
That's
So for $500, you could
Motherfuckers want to play Quake 2 RTX. Let's go.
and for reference, I'm running currently an RTX 2060 KO, which is a cut down 2080. Basically they made a 2080 and it didn't work, so they cut part of it off and made it a 2060.
Right. Yeah. We had that story about how it's great for animation. Yeah.
But I spent like $350 on it. So for another $250 or so, or $150, I can upgrade my graphics card.
That's so cool.
Really easily in the next year and get a lot more performance out of it. Or I could go all the way up, and I think it's like, let's see if I can find where he pulls it out of the oven.
And for reference, I've got a GeForce GTX 1080 running in mine, which is like basic. It works. I don't have any problems with it because I'm out here playing Quake 2.
This is where he pulls it out of the oven. And look at this graphics card.
Hey, it's beefy.
People have been
I've seen
taking
toasters smaller than that.
People have been taking pictures of like industrial AC units on rooftops of buildings and being like, "Look, I found a 3090 in the wild." Nicknamed the BF GPU.
Love it.
It's got 24 gigabytes of G6X RAM built into it, and look at this thing.
that's a lot of RAM.
It's very pretty.
Like, this is a rendering powerhouse. I think this one's coming at 1500.
Yeah.
So basically,
$14.99.
yeah, basically their previous flagship model was the 2080 Ti at like 1200. Now they're looking at their highest line is now this 3090. And so competitively pricing it against last generation's flagship and then dramatically dropping the pricing of everything below it. So they created a new base, they created a new top line and then kept that at that price rather than making it a $2,000 card and then keeping the 3070 at a competitive price to like its performance. They just dropped everything way down, and I think people like AMD is going to have to respond hard in the graphics department to be competitive.
I didn't even think about it. Oh shit.
Right. And AMD has been doing some really great things with their CPUs, which is making them become the preference over Intel in the CPU business. And so now it'll be interesting to see what AMD's response to this in the next year is to stay competitive with NVIDIA. Granted, NVIDIA is a graphics card focused company, so they can have the resources. They're not being spread. But no, this is a great week for PC gamers. People were kind of wondering, like, there were some people like, oh, maybe I'll pick up a console gamers are finally catching up to PC, and then NVIDIA comes in and just drops this amazing like 40-minute thing.
Walk into the club, pull that giant card out their pants, slap it on the pool table.
Yeah. So, and you can kind of see, like, you can tell the CEO doing the presentation is just excited, setting new standards and things like that. It was like, from what I could see, people were really pumped about this 40-minute presentation.
Let's keep the ball rolling on PC gaming, dude. So happening this weekend is Realms Deep 2020. It is a digital event run by 3D Realms, the people that brought us Duke Nukem, and more recently Ion Fury, not to be confused with their original Ion Maiden title, which Iron Maiden wasn't a fan of. But,
Yeah, and I'm
so,
playing the video right now from the article that you posted on the Forever Classic
yes,
site.
so this is their teaser. It's got a lot of things that they did end up announcing. I think some of the more interesting titles is there's a game called Graven that 3D Realms announced that looks freaking awesome. It's like a mix of. Did you guys ever play that Might and Magic game? Um, there's a lot of like kicking and you like physics based combat.
Because when I think
But
of
this,
Might and Magic, I think kick that guy in the face.
what's that? Oh my god, what is the name of that game? Might and Magic, kicking.
I don't know.
It's Dark Messiah. That's the name of it.
Okay.
So
Might
Dark
and Magic
Messiah is a
kickboxing.
really well loved PC game, and 3D Realms' new game Graven kind of carries that with some like very minor RPG elements and some exploration that reminds me of like classic Elder Scrolls. But dude, this game looks awesome.
Yeah.
And there's like spell casting and there's a wrist crossbow and it's still like low poly, so everything looks super retro, but it feels modern and exploration and I love this kind of stuff. And so that was one of the bigger announcements. Also, New Blood, the guys over at New Blood announced that they are publishing Fallen Aces, which is like a mafia hand-drawn first-person thing,
Oh,
and it also looks really, really cool. So like this event was full of stuff. They had interviews with people like John Romero. They had the guy that did Brutal Doom and what he was working on. And so there was all these like sweet interviews and just it was a celebration of retro style FPS in the modern light. And I dig it. New Blood came out swinging. They did a full like 30-minute presentation on an inventory system and it was awesome.
no, that's fantastic.
Good
It's
job.
as for Gloomwood. Gloomwood's got a new case. It's like a doctor's bag, and you set it down, and it opens up as a physical object, and then you drag things that are also physical objects with physics and stuff, put it into the box. It's just cool.
That is cool.
Nah.
Gloomwood looks incredible. I can't wait for it.
Did you all get to watch the games done quick with them recently?
Yes,
yeah,
I did watch
I had
the
it
Dusk
on
one.
most of the time.
And for this event, Realms Deep, they did a segmented run for Ultra Kill that ended up being like 12 minutes long or something, and it was amazing. But yeah, the game's done quick with Dusk is hilarious because it's Dave Oshry being a goober again. And at one
Oh,
point
yeah,
he's
I
like,
remember that
"Hey,
one.
jump down in the chat. We're gonna be giving out free codes, all our games. I've got a bunch of them." And then like 3 minutes later, he's like, "I've been informed that we can't do the code thing, so go to Twitter."
He's like, yeah, I'm gonna do it on Twitter.
Yeah.
Then he's like,
Dude.
he's constantly like self-censoring. He's like, I'm totally gonna get banned for this. And chat's like,
Yeah.
pretty sure he's already banned from chat, but he's talking there.
No, it's so he plays with it. It's like a meme at this point. How fast can Dave Oshry be banned for games done quick? The answer may surprise you.
That's it.
He
Or
keeps
not.
pushing the boundaries.
Um,
But
true.
I really like the format that Realms Deep did, 3D Realms, and it's cool because that's a Texas company. I live like maybe 30 minutes from the 3D Realms office, and I just think that's neat. Like I'm
No,
close
that's-
to game dev, guys. I'm here in the heart of it in many ways. So those are the games I would look up. If you're into retro style first person shooters and stuff like I am, I would look up. There's a whole page and a Steam sale happening right now on Steam, but there's lots of things you can go in their wish list. I would look at Graven, Fallen Aces, Ultra Kill, Gloomwood for sure, and then of course if you haven't played Ion Fury, that's another really good one. And games like Proteus, Hellbound, Sin. There's a remake of Sin happening, which is a game that people liked, I guess. I never played it. Hedon is getting some new content. Blood, like there's so many cool things in that genre and space, and I just highly recommend going and looking at some of it. It's really creative and cool, and like some of the most visceral action in gaming. I love it so much.
Very cool. Some smaller items this week is Project CD Red or CD Projekt Red announced
Yes.
that The Witcher 3 will be getting a free update with the new next generation. So if you already own the game on PC, Xbox One, or PS4, you will get it as a free upgrade to the next generation of PC, like specs or an updated version for PC, PlayStation 5, and Xbox Series X. So if you get those consoles and already own the game, you sign in and it'll show up in your available to download games, which is a
Basically,
really
CD are just taking like their most well-beloved game and bringing it up to the modern space with some of the various graphical techniques and stuff.
So basically, for like the easiest way to compare this is on PC, GPU that supports ray tracing and probably an SSD to really take advantage of faster loading times. So they are adding ray tracing support and faster load times into the game, and then once it's being played on Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5, it'll be dealt with then on what's being added. But yeah, just like, and comparing it to, I guess the biggest thing to compare it to would be like Skyrim in their Legendary Edition for they made a remaster for PS4 and PC and Xbox and stuff that supported higher resolution and better texturing and things like that. But that was sold as a full $60 experience, and CD Projekt Red is like, yeah, here's that same update but for free, and also probably a better update.
Good. I was just
re-released the game on PS5 and Xbox Series X. So if you don't own the game, that's another sale they can make.
Yeah, so you can pick it up, this version of it. So if you haven't played it and it's always been on your docket, you can pick up your PS5 and a copy of
now is that going to be available at launch then?
I'm not seeing information related to its full release.
Maybe that's something they'll put out to kind of hold people over while they're working on the like fancy edition of Cyberpunk.
Yeah, maybe. But it's a pretty good deal for people who've already gotten a copy, and making it available for people who want it on the next series who doesn't already have it. It doesn't mention a release date, but it's coming next year.
Cool. Lots of good stuff. And a lot of the things that they talked about at Realms Deep, by the way, is either launching in early 2021 or later on in the year. And most of the games are available either in early access or there's like a demo available. So if you want to just give them a try, you can probably do that.
Yeah. And EA did a thing recently. They released a game called UFC 4. And boy, does it have some cool features to really immerse you into the game, including full-screen actual advertisements, including one for Amazon's new Season 2 of The Boys.
Good show.
Yeah, it's a great show, but I don't want it advertised in my video game.
But Joe, that's what you see on the TV when you watch the UFC.
Yeah, so but I'm not watching the UFC.
The immersion. I want to be the immersed when it comes to my kickboxing.
I want the full
game.
experience.
So again, EA, people paying full price for a game. I imagine UFC 4 is full of microtransactions as well. I haven't played it. I don't touch an EA game. But now they're doing ads on top of that?
Yeah,
like Capcom got reamed for this.
Yeah, so basically what's happening is they're selling you a $60 game, and then on top of the sale, they are continuing to make money off of you playing the game by selling advertising space to products and sellers and things like that.
Not including the additional content that they're selling at a premium, I imagine.
So I could see maybe releasing a $15 version of this game and then putting on there includes ads.
Yeah, like, hey, if you want to save some money on the new UFC, here's the version with ads.
Right, and like taking that model, I would say would be acceptable because one, you're getting, you're going to receive ads for a cheaper startup cost or whatever, and that would make sense to me. But yeah, EA, people were mad, and since then,
it's not just that either. They review bombed the hell out of the new Madden.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, they did.
Well, you mean it basically literally copying and pasting the previous year's game and putting it, like, it's not even like updates, it's literally the same game.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you. It's Madden. To me, it's always been the same game.
Right. Well, that's always been kind of the joke, right? It's the same game every year, but they've always updated it with like new textures and things like that. They've always tried to update it, but this was literally like people found like Madden 2019 banners in one of the stadiums.
Wow.
And on the field.
Wow. Yeah. Speaking of weird things, and sorry to cut you, like circumvent you here, Joe, but in the Avengers, which is another game that probably could have been delayed by a couple months, there's a bunch of like placeholder audio that people keep finding, and it's just really funny. So like sometimes the Hulk will have just some random dude cut in and be like, insert low growl here or something.
So speaking of the Avengers, a friend of mine has been playing it, and he was saying that while the gameplay could have been better, and visually there's some things that could be improved, he said the writing and the story is actually really good, and playing as Kamala Khan, Miss Marvel, is super fun. So he says that the portrayal of the characters in the story are really, really good. So if you're looking for a good, just like Marvel story featuring the Avengers, this is not a bad way to go.
Looking at the box, you would never know that, though, because Kamala Khan is in, like, the back, like, behind Captain America, behind
where there's an
Black
ad
Widow.
right here for it on the screen, and she's standing kind of still in the front, but behind Captain America.
Yep, which is, that's the image that I used when I made this joke, but, like, she is legitimately the main character of that story.
Yeah.
And it sucks because, like, the actress that they got to do it was super excited. She's like, people like me don't get these roles. And there was a really good conversation between her and I think Greg Miller is the one that did this one over at Kind of Funny. It's their We Have Cool Friends interview series. Great interview series. But she's like, we don't get those sort of roles. And Greg says, what do you mean? He's like, women of color. We never get it. And so here we are in a situation where a woman of color is not only a main character, but she's the main character of a very big comic book release in the video game space, made by a very big company that has a lot of like energy and eyeballs on it, and on the marketing you wouldn't know, and that sucks.
It looks like it's about Captain America. It looks like it's about the whole group, but it really is centered around her story and her involvement with the Avengers. And it kind of reminds me of when some marketing people and some owners tried to tell Naughty Dog to not feature Ellie on the packaging. And they turned around and made her even bigger and more prominent on the packaging. And they're like, no, she is important to this game. We are not going to remove her. Like,
we need people to step up and do that more often.
Yeah, so in that case, Naughty Dog really stepped up and said, no, this is about this character. And I think in the original box art, they even moved Joel to the back cover and made Ellie, or they made Ellie front and center and put Joel a little bit further back. And I thought that was just a brilliant move on their part, because it's just, even though Joel is like the playable character, later you do play as Ellie, but it is kind of like Naughty Dog sticking to their guns and being like, nope, this character is just as, if not more important than the other character on the box, and telling us to remove that character is insulting. And it kind of almost makes me wonder if something similar happened here, but they made the bad call, and it almost borders on false advertising. I think you do play as all the characters, but the story is centered around her.
Now I wonder if there's a reverse cover that has Kamala Khan more featured.
I haven't seen anyone mention anything, but
because I feel like I saw a cover that was like a collector's edition or something that had Miss Marvel more in the front. Possibly. But regardless, the main retail version, you wouldn't know because she's like tucked in a corner, and that sucks.
I think this is a game that I might wait for like a sale on. I'm definitely interested in
comparing it to like a beat 'em up, and like, you know me, I love the Hulk. It doesn't take much for me to be excited about playing as the Hulk, but like, I have no interest in this game.
So the other thing that's kind of interesting is I haven't heard much about it since, but like a month ago or whatever, it was sounding like Spider-Man was going to be available in the PlayStation version only. Because Sony owns the rights to Spider-Man. And while that's exciting, like Spider-Man is available in a version of the game, it kind of makes the other versions of the game feel less cool. And I almost feel like those other versions of the game should get a character that Sony doesn't.
Spawn. Put Spawn on the Xbox version.
Or even Black Panther.
Dude, Black Panther should be in this. That would probably get me to buy it.
Black Panther or Vision
For one, I'd have to have
would be a good addition.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Scarlet Witch. Come on, there's so many like cool characters
I
that they could stick in there.
who is it? One of the first DLC characters is going to be Hawkeye's daughter. I can't remember her name off the top of my head, but people were excited about
It's like
that.
Hawkeye, and then there's various skins of Hawkeye. I think they're like different versions.
Oh, is it? Okay.
I think so. And then there's
Well,
also
Hawkeye's not even on
Ant-
this
Giant
picture,
Man
so that's
is another
how
one.
far back delegated he got.
Yeah, well, he's a post release character, and of course,
Yeah.
people are working in quarantine, and I get it. It's totally understandable. But it seems like AAA right now is just tripping over its own feet. I mean, we had a company at Microsoft, and it might have just been Microsoft, claiming that their next big project was the world's first quadruple A game, and that's just stupid.
Yeah,
I
We
think if
need that.
anyone's going to make the claim of making a quadruple A game, it would have to be something like CD Projekt Red and the amount of work they put into like their Witcher and Cyberpunk game.
Or like a Rockstar rocking out on like the biggest ray tracing whatevers, photorealistic whatevers, like
Yeah.
sure. But when it comes to the conversation about video games, there's no place for quadruple A. There's people that have money and people that don't have so much money. That's the wavelength.
Yeah.
Every now and again we
That's all
get
we
into the
got.
double A argument because of companies like Ninja Theory doing weird things. And that's really fascinating.
Getting contracts
But
with
we don't need a
Nintendo for
quadruple A.
exclusive games and stuff.
Not when all of these like major companies are jamming them full of microtransactions and putting
Yeah.
ads in them. Like we don't. It's gonna come to a point where nobody's gonna want to interact with that stuff. Although I say this, and the newest Call of Duty sells a bajillion copies because
Yeah.
that's what it is. But as far as I'm in the quote unquote hard, I don't even like to say hardcore gamer. Like people like me that enjoy the genre, the medium of games for what they are, and really kind of see them as an artistic medium. Those are the people that are not even going to interact with these things. Like I haven't touched an EA game in probably 20 years because I saw the writing on the wall, right? Like I don't want to be associated with that. I don't want to interact with your stuff. I haven't played Activision stuff in a long time. I won't buy the new Tony Hawk remaster, even though people say it's pretty good, because I know within 3 months it's going to be full of microtransactions.
Yep.
So I don't know. It's just eventually the bubble's going to burst, and people are just going to buy more indie games, and that's great because indies are killing it.
It's true. There's more tools than ever before for people to develop a game at home or with their friends. And
if eventually the big companies start to like not support indies through the digital marketplaces, just make your own marketplace. We'll figure it out.
yeah. I can't remember if we discussed it last time. If there was, did we talk about the recent Sony State of Play?
Maybe.
What was even in that state of play? I watched it, but I don't remember.
Basically, it was
Pieces.
just like there was a few PS5 things. There's a huge.
Oh, they showed Bug Snacks footage. Yeah, we talked about that.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh no, I think there might have because they showed off more of the new Ratchet and Clank game a bunch, and then
Lots of
talked about
gameplay.
some other things that were coming out for PS4 and PS5. Nothing
Yeah.
really super stood out.
It's just impressive. I mean, people at the end of the day just want to know the damn price, because like, of course I'm excited about Ratchet and Clank. I really, really want to play it.
It looks
I just
awesome.
need to know how much money I need.
I
What's the entrance price?
was watching that trailer, and like I don't know if other people noticed this, but like just from an animation perspective and rendering perspective, watching like the amount of detail that's being put into these animations, even in gameplay, is incredible. Like when he blows up an enemy and they hit the ground, they like squash and stretch and bounce a little bit, and the way they do it is like on a whole new level I've never really seen in a video game before, particularly like in a cartoony sense.
Yeah.
I've seen like this level of animation put into like something more realistic. The first thing that comes to mind would be The Last of Us Part 2.
Well, yeah,
But
of course.
a lot of
Or
that
Ghost of Tsushima,
was motion capture. This is like animation. They are like taking these cartoon characters and animating them and to be cartoony, and it's just so obvious to me that there's so much being put into this game. I'm very excited for it, and I liked the first one. So
Ratchet and Clank in general, I own most of the series. The ones on PS2, Going Commando and Up Your Arsenal, I think are like top tier PlayStation platformer goodness. And so I'm really excited to see how this new one shakes
Some
up.
of the best names in gaming too.
Yeah, they're always puns.
What was
Granted,
it? The
there's a bunch of
PSP
them
one
on
was Size
PS3.
Matters.
Yeah, I've got that one. That one's really fun. I missed out on a bunch of the PS3 ones, so I'll have to sit down and play those eventually. But I have always enjoyed Ratchet and Clank as a character. I think they're really fun.
Yeah.
When it comes to Insomniac, though, I really want to see them come back to Resistance on PC specifically.
Never ever played a Ratchet and Clank game.
Dude, play the new one on. Well, quote,
yeah,
new
play the
it's
PS4
like a
one.
remaster of the first one.
The PS4 one's amazing.
Yeah, it's really good. And you can get it new for like $10.
Yeah, it's one of those games where I played it and like even though it's older, it's one of those games where I played it and it was one of the first times I was like, this feels like I'm playing a Pixar movie.
It was one of the few times within the past few years that I like played a game and then forgot that I was playing a game and stayed up till like 5 in the morning and was like, oh shit, like that game is really solid.
It was so what was interesting is because they had that movie come out to coincide with it.
Which
we
is
had
a
little
fine
game
movie.
my daughter and I had watched the movie and then I got the game and she was so convinced that it was the movie that she would like, I want to watch this movie, and she'd pull out the game and I would pop it in and play that for 2 hours. And
nice.
She just loved it because it looked like the movie she had watched and enjoyed. That's how good that game looks. But you should definitely play it, dude.
All in favor.
But we are coming up on like an hour and a half, so we should talk about what we're playing right now.
Ooh, yeah.
Zach, you go first.
Of course, I'm playing Mortal Shell. I'm
Yes.
playing Spiritfarer. I just finished Paladin's Dream. Don't know about the S. I'll have to double check on that. I've been playing Neverwinter again with the guys. And it's just really fun. Something Lauren and I can play together. Animal Crossing still. Not as much as Lauren, but
One that
now
you've been trying to get me to play, I just downloaded on the Epic Store, is that Spellbound game.
Oh, Spellbreak.
Yeah, Spellbreak, and then there's
because
another
Spellbreak
one.
just came out for everything.
Yes.
It's out of everything. It's not an alpha or beta anymore. You can play it.
The other one that I picked up.
Cross progression, and cross save. Whatever that is. You can do it all from everywhere.
Switch.
Yeah, you can get it on Switch. You can get it on PlayStation, which is what blew my mind. Is that Sony said, "Yeah, sure." And I can play it with all my friends on.
If you want to give that a shot sometime, we can do that because I think I installed it.
I just have to reinstall it. I think I uninstalled it at some point.
No, I didn't install it.
No in particular reason, but yeah.
The other multiplayer one that's available free right now is a game called Diabolical, which is like an arena FPS. So that might be fun for us to jump into.
Right, and we still have Splitgate for fighting with people at some point, or getting some community portal action in. Fun.
I love Splitgate. We also have Halo Reach that we can play. So, I mean, I think most of the Master Chief Collection is available now on PC. So, community nights, if y'all want to get into that, let me know, because we can do that.
Yeah.
Joe, what have you been playing, dude? Unless you got something else, Nick.
No, I think that's really it.
The big thing for me is I recently picked up Ghost of Tsushima, so I've been playing that. It is incredible. I really, really like it. I've been playing it in a mode called Kurosawa mode, which renders it in black and white with film grain, and it's Japanese dialogue with English subtitles, and it legitimately feels like I'm directing an old samurai movie, and it is
I love that.
Straight up my like nerdiness level of like I just love old samurai movies, and so to be able to like play one and have it feel like that. Like, there's something more to the rendering happening than just grayscaling it or dropping the saturation. There's some distinct things happening that, like, the way contrast works, the way certain colors appear on black and white film, that's happening. It is rendering the game differently. And I can't quite put my finger on it. But it looks amazing. The
reason I haven't like pursued getting that is because I'm waiting until we have some money so I can get a nice 4K TV for the living room, and that's one of the first things I want to get is Ghost of Tsushima and Last of Us Part 2.
Both of those games are amazing, but I'm really, really enjoying it. I've also been digging back into playing my first time playthrough of Pokemon Emerald.
Fun.
It is a challenging Pokemon game, and considering it's been a long time since I've played a challenging Pokemon game, it is kicking my butt. Like, I just flew through or Shield and was kind of disappointed in the lackluster difficulty. Like, it just wasn't a problem at all. And I think you could change the difficulty of that by eliminating all of your Pokemon getting experience every battle. So I guess maybe that's my fault for basically keeping it on easy mode.
Yeah.
But having only the Pokemon that fight get the experience, outside of getting like an experience share or something like that, definitely changes how the game is played. And the AI is tougher. So they will deliberately try to do a strategy. They will deliberately try to hit you with status effects or confusion, which adds a level of difficulty to every fight.
Yeah.
And so that, I don't know, I'm just really enjoying it. And the third generation, Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald was one that I just totally skipped back in the day. I went through a period where I just wasn't into Pokemon for a couple of years, and that just happened to be the third generation. The game looks amazing. Some of the best pixel art I've seen, and it looks great. I've been playing it on a DS Lite, so it looks even better. But those are the two things I've been primarily playing. I've been playing Fall Guys with my daughter. It's a hilarious game. There's these bean people just fumbling over each other.
Oh my god.
I'm watching a lot of Fallout streamers and like highlight reels and stuff. I love Fall Guys.
Because they're bringing in the Big Yeetus.
The Big Yeetus.
That thing looks silly.
Season 2 is also coming soon. I guess that's the other thing that happened we didn't cover was Gamescom. There was a couple neat little things buried
That's
in
what
there,
I was thinking. It wasn't State of Play. It was Gamescom.
Gamescom and DC Fandom we didn't touch on, which also had some cool game stuff, but like not usually my thing. Apparently Robert Pattinson was diagnosed with COVID, so the production has slowed down there.
But those are the two things I've been playing is Ghost of Tsushima and Pokemon Emerald. I picked up a bunch of those Black Panther comics, so the last like day or so I've been just reading Black Panther.
That's awesome.
So those are the kind of like my big nerdy things I've been doing right now. But what about you, Alex? What have you been playing lately?
So I put in probably more than anything while I was, in West Virginia, just kind of hanging out, waiting for the truck to get fixed and visiting people. I played so much Dead Cells. I love Dead Cells. So I finally, I think, beat the one boss cell, which is like things get harder each time you beat it. But in order to get the next level difficulty, you have to beat it on that difficulty. And so I think I've cleared the game with 1 BC, maybe 2. But it's super impressive. It's one of the coolest 2D action games I think I've ever played, as far as just like movement and the ferocity that you can put in inputs. But man, that game slaps. It's really fun. And then last night I just beat the indie game that I believe is made by the Stardew Valley developer. It's called Inmost. And this is a 2D kind of like dark sort of adventure game, I would say. And they market it as a horror platformer, which I don't necessarily agree with. It's very narrative driven. In fact, the last 20 minutes of the game kind of pulls a Kojima. They just drop a 20-minute cutscene at you in the end.
Okay.
And so that was kind of unique and cool. And so the story's like neat, but I don't know if it's absolutely recommended play, because the game itself feels kind of clunky. The movement is kind of weird. There are a couple odd puzzle solutions that I couldn't figure out for the life of me, so I had to just like message Andrew because he beat it recently, and I was like, dude, how do you beat this? And he's like, oh, just make the thing go this way. And I was like, what? Like, never even considered it, right? And so it's not a long game. It only takes like 4 or 5 hours to beat, and if you're cruising through it or getting 100%, it's just that much longer. But it is a weird little experiment.
So here's the question. Did you save the cats? I hear is the big deal.
I think so. I don't know.
Did you even know you could save the cats?
I don't even know about the cats. Okay. Unless it's those little bouncing things. I thought they were rabbits.
Oh, I don't know. But all I know is
I killed one.
Andrew is talking to me a little bit about the game, and the PR person for the game asked, "Did you save the cats?" And he was like, no, I didn't know I could. And apparently his girlfriend was very upset with him for not saving the cats. When he said it to me, my
Whoa.
response was, well, at least it wasn't dogs.
The thing is if it's the little critters that I think they were, if you fall from a high area and land on one, it'll squish it and kill it, and I definitely did that.
Oh, no.
Whoops. But it's a cool game. Could work with some flow as far as like making animation smoother and making things snappier. It would be far more recommendable, I think. But in the current state it's in, it's like cool and it's neat, but I don't know if it's required play. I like most of the things it does, but it is very much an experimental type of game, and it is trying to tell a very deliberate story. And there's some cool little like philosophy nuggets in there sprinkled throughout, so it feels almost like playing an indie Kojima game than anything else. In the fact that it's like weird but not quite. I don't know. It's not bad. So I finished it. I'll have a review of that probably within the next few days. And then I will also have probably not a review, but some sort of featured post about RPG Maker MV. And we'll see how that goes.
Sounds good.
But other than that, I think that's about it. I need to be playing. There's a couple first-person shooters I have in my Steam library that I need to finish.
Oh, there's one I
And
forgot. I started playing Wasteland
I
3.
need to install that. Oh, okay. Yeah. How was that?
For a game that just came out, I feel like visually it could look better, but the writing is solid and the gameplay is fun. I've been playing it cooperatively with a friend and we're having a blast with it.
Isn't it kind of goofy?
It's kind of silly, like over the like wacky humor, but it's like a post-apocalyptic like CRPG.
It's like the grandfather of Fallout, essentially.
Yeah,
the original series.
Yeah, kind of. The second one is really highly critically rated, and the third one just came out. It was available on Game Pass, and I have that on PC, and I've been really enjoying it. But I just came across a interesting little bit of like small news thing. A Wii U game just came out.
Oh, Shakedown Hawaii.
Yeah, Shakedown Hawaii, which looks to be like kind of a cartoony GTA.
It looks really cool, actually. It's like the original style GTA, but it's got a lot of video game references, and that game is just cool. I've not played it, but I've seen a lot of footage of it.
Yeah, came out on Wii U of all things.
Yes, yeah, you can get
and
that one
PS3.
That's interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's on the PS3 PSN store.
I love it whenever companies put out things on weird platforms. Like, I love Limited Run. I love Merge. I love basically any company that physically prints weird stuff.
Well, like, what was it? A long time ago, there was that like indie developer that released a new game on the Sega Genesis.
Oh yeah. It was probably Coffee Crisis. I know.
Pure Solar. It was like an old school RPG or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they released a version of it legitimately for.
Before that, it was a Dreamcast game, I think.
Oh, was it?
Go figure that. Yeah, I know the one you're talking about.
So.
And then they eventually brought it to modern consoles. But yeah, video games are cool most of the time.
Video games are cool. I know that's controversial, but video games are fun. Don't let the comment sections on YouTube and Reddit discourage you from video games. Video games actually are fun, people.
And even though I get really pissy about weird little things about the game industry, I still adore video games. It's my favorite way to interact with a digital medium. I think they're really important, and I just love them dearly. I just wish that Nintendo would make some better decisions about this stuff.
Well, Zach, we are coming up on an hour and 45 minutes. Do you want to close us out with some last comments?
I don't know what to say other than I'm glad that we're able to record again. It's been a really couple weird month and a half.
Yeah.
Like, we got started planning to do what we were going to do at the beginning of June. And it's like almost the middle of September.
Yeah.
Because as soon as we'd sit down and be like, all right, so we'll talk about this next week. Shit.
Yeah. Monkey wrench.
We need to learn how to dodge wrenches.
But yeah, no, I mean, it was me and then Joe and then you and then Joe and then me and then you.
Yeah.
It just happened in a weird enough round that it's just stretched out. So I'm glad that we're back.
Definitely.
We're doing some stuff on the back end.
We're getting a lot of like review codes and people are talking to us, and we're getting ready to do PAX online. That's a thing that we're doing.
Yeah, we're doing some
Somehow.
packs online. You know, we got this guy who just asked us to review his RPG Maker game. That's
Yep.
great.
Yeah.
There's
We're
a
starting.
special interview episode coming soon.
We're getting ready to hammer into more and more stuff. It's
We've
just a
got
matter
stuff. We just need to do it.
Yeah.
Well, we're getting
And
more.
I would say
which
it's
is
finding the
good.
time, but like my whole thing is I'm spending most of my day filing job applications and just looking. And
Yeah.
so much of my computer time is being wasted on that. So if I actually had some work, I would have more dedicated time to work on the things that I want to do here. And so that's a whole conversation. But at the end of the day, we're back. I would love to do more Twitch streams here pretty soon, especially for these like weird retro FPSs. There's a lot of things that I want to do. It's just right now I don't necessarily have all the resources, and there's a couple things holding me back. But we're still like stats wise, the site's doing great. Like we're ahead month by month.
We only had to get
every month
permabanned
with
from
one.
Reddit to do it.
That was me.
Only one thing, not all of Reddit, but
That's
kind of worth it.
it's another subreddit chalked up to the Alex has been banned from it. Fucking mods.
But yeah, no, it's great. Not
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I bought a new monitor.
Oh, sick.
So now I actually have a monitor that's whatever 1280p is. Whatever
Like
the good
2K or whatever.
No.
1080p.
1920, 1080.
Yeah, 1080.
Whatever that standard is. So now I have a really big TV, 19 by 20, and then a TV that's 800 by 600 for my second
Just
monitor.
goes down.
What?
Yeah.
Why?
You can slap a chat on that little one and it'd be fine. Like
Yeah,
I
I
think
guess.
Shit gets really weird. Shit gets really
Like it's a little
really
wonky
weird.
going from one monitor being 4K and one being 1080. I can't imagine. I don't even.
Speaking of Twitch streams, Zach, how close are you to probably finishing Mortal Shell? Because I want to see that.
So I just turned in the second Sacred Gland in game, which is
I don't
you
know.
get it from the
What
boss.
does that mean?
It's what your reward from the boss. So you have to run back with a glowy thing that everything wants to take from you, and it's really
Okay.
scary.
And how many are there?
I don't know. I'm
Okay.
assuming there's
Oh.
at least 3 because he says there's one more temple that I have to go
so you
find.
might have a
but
ways
he didn't
to go.
mention anything after that. I mean, if it's in the same format, I can go through another one. I still don't have a long range weapon, and I'm really mad about it because I have all the things for a long range weapon, but no long range weapon.
That's weird.
And I'm gonna be really mad if it's something really simple and would have
Yeah.
made the game significantly easier.
But I
So,
really want to see you
Maybe
finish
look
that.
again in the areas that you found all of those shells that you walked past.
Oh, I have. That's the only thing I have to do is go to this last temple, and I don't know which direction that is. So I'm gonna
Yeah.
wander around for 15 minutes, lost as shit.
Good
I
luck.
also really want to do a crowd control thing, and Fall Guys works with crowd control, I believe.
Does it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
They added it. They added Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2. There's a bunch of stuff they've added recently.
Lorian.
Oh yeah, find some stuff, and I'll definitely grab some
Dark
things
Souls
on
1,
computer
I think,
to do
is
it.
the biggest one for me to do personally, because I think that would be really fun crowd control.
I did just
I've
buy
never beat
Darkest Dungeon finally.
It's been revealed that
'Cause it's
Lorian
$6.
is going to add crowd control or Twitch integration into Baldur's Gate 3 for things like
Ooh.
conversation options.
Ooh.
So you could allow your chat to control your choices in the game.
Very cool. Or vote on it, probably.
Yeah,
as a passive
like
thing.
something like that. Outside of a poll, that'll be built into the chat. So when it
That's
comes
awesome,
up,
man.
it'll prompt in chat, "Hey, put your vote in now." And I'm like, "Oh, that could be a really interesting way to play the game on your like third or fourth playthrough to just get
Studio,
random
start
choices."
kicking butt.
Terraria.
So,
right,
Alex,
guys.
if someone wanted to get in touch with us, how would they do that?
All right, so if you wanted to send an email, it's theforeverclassicpodcast@gmail.com. Put in a specific subject or something. That way we notice it, because we're getting a lot of pack stuff right now. The other way to get a hold of us is on Twitter, @ForeverXClassic. You can also find me on Twitter, @ACMccumbers. And, of course, just about everything we do is available on foreverclassicgames.com.
Yeah.
All right. And what about you, Zach?
I'm Exquisite Liar everywhere except for Twitch, which is still Exquisite_Liar until we get that blue check mark, and then I'm going to just throw an elbow in whoever has my name and take it.
Somebody.
Fair enough. And I am at the Daddy Gamer on Twitter, and Daddy Gamer YT on Twitch, and YouTube is Daddy Gamer Reviews. Those are the best places to find me and interact with me. But thank you so much for watching and checking us out. Hopefully we touched on some things you were interested about, learned some things, and hopefully we earned some new fans.